Hello, I'm Backwater Jay, and welcome back to Roleplay 101. In this series, we'll be exploring the unwritten rules of roleplay etiquette and guidelines to creating and roleplaying a unique and memorable character. These concepts will apply regardless of format, so whether you're on tabletop, online RPGs, or Discord or forum RP, you should be able to put this to good use. I'd also like to stress that while I've had a good deal of experience, what follows is my personal opinion. If you find something else works better with you and with your group, then use it. There are no hard rules to this except everyone should have fun. Now, a lot of you have probably seen the immersion therapy video I put up recently, which shows a lot of the don'ts. If not, I encourage you to check it out here. Link will also be in the end cards in the description below. That was originally intended to be a short skit for the beginning of this video, but it soon became clear it would run too long unless I completely gutted the script. So my plan from here on is to tie this series together thematically with the sketch comedy, which I'm going to call dissociative identity for lack of a better term. Yes, there will be more. Anyway, exposition out of the way, let's get to the meat here. First off, what do I mean when I say immersion? Simply put, immersion is being in the zone with roleplay, where you're really feeling your character and the world. Now, how much immersion happens in your games is going to depend on the group and their comfort level. Some people are simply in it for the board game experience, fighting monsters and getting loot, and if that's what works for your group, great. However, on the assumption that you and your group want to dive into the deep end of the role-playing experience, there are a few important things to remember. First off, it's important to create a divide between in-character and out-of-character interaction. By in-character, I mean anything that's actually happening in the fictional story you and your friends are creating. By out-of-character, I mean, well, basically everything else. Pretty clear divide, no? Well, actually, it's not as clear as we'd like to think. With nearly all roleplays, some level of out-of-character conversation is required in order to keep the game running smoothly. Dozens of times a session, a player will ask something like, "How far away are the goblins? What do I know about the cult of Nemesis? Can I sheath my dagger, draw my sword, and still attack?" These sort of rules and world clarification questions are generally not disruptive. In fact, most of the time they help immersion by rooting out confusion. Because let's face it, no matter how good your descriptions are, there's going to be some ambiguity. That said, it's very easy to cross the line into excessive out-of-character conversations that have nothing to do with the story or sometimes even the game. This is natural to an extent. Human beings, yes, even introverts like myself, are to an extent social creatures. But it can get disruptive when roleplay is actually happening, to the point of becoming divisive or even derailing the game if side conversations are constantly going on while others are trying to immerse themselves. This is a hard thing to eliminate entirely, but a couple things I can recommend here. First, don't get together just to game. Plan some time before or after or both for more casual socialization. This will give players an outlet for the natural tendency toward small talk, and it will bring you closer as friends, which means your group is more likely to stay together for the long haul. Second, and this takes a bit of practice, try to channel that drive to socialize toward in-character interactions, whether that be with the NPCs or with your other PCs. Now, I get that some PCs just aren't that good in social situations, but if nothing else, their awkward floundering can make for some good comic relief in an otherwise serious scene. Don't overdo it on the humor, though, particularly during the graver moments. Part of the discipline of roleplay is taking your natural drives and channeling them through your character, which, yes, is easier said than done. Third, keep your phones and other devices stowed unless you're actually using them for the game. Remember, out-of-character distractions don't have to involve people at the table. It could be a text or a Discord or a phone game. Granted, there are occasions you may need to check your phone from time to time, but after you checked it, put it away. There is also an online exclusive variant of this, alt-tabbing. Basically, if your attention is focused somewhere other than the players, the game, and the story, what you're saying is that whatever you're looking at is more important than them. Now, this is not to say you shouldn't have a character sheet or die roller on your phone, for instance, or alt-tab to look up a rules or lore clarification. But if it's not related to the game, there's a time and a place, and the game is not it. Show some respect and give the session your full attention. Stepping off the soapbox for a moment, there is a lot of confusion about first versus third person, or even past versus present tense when role-playing. The short answer is there's no cut and dry protocol. Most often in my experience, tabletop games default to first person and present tense, while more text-based formats, including MMOs and forum and Discord RP, default to third person and sometimes even past tense. In my opinion, this stems from our natural desire to read the printed word as though it were a novel, but be that as it may, this is something that should be decided ahead of time. Really, with a lot of these variables, a simple conversation about conventions and expectations at a session 0 or something similar will help to clarify and set the mood for the entire campaign. But say we've set our expectations already. How exactly do we convey when something is in or out of character? This can be especially tricky with in-person games if your players are not skilled in the dramatic arts. If you need to, it's perfectly fine to preface a phrase with in character or out of character when you need to switch. It's clear and concise. People will know who's talking even if your character acting looks and sounds exactly like you in real life. That said, for those of us with some acting experience, developing a unique voice and a set of mannerisms for your character will go a long way toward eliminating this confusion. Even something as simple as speaking slowly in a lower pitched voice will often give people enough to make the distinction. And if you need to add in some distinctive mannerisms, maybe a stutter, a slouch, or a tendency to roll your R's, you're well on your way to portraying a character the entire table will recognize. Don't go overboard with this, however, unless you're a skilled actor looking for a challenge. Remember, you want a persona you can maintain for the long haul. So unless you have the endurance to pull off a falsetto Irish brogue with a facial tic who ends every sentence in "says I," you probably should simplify a bit. Remember, this is a skill that takes years of practice to perfect, so start simple. Now to address the online community, this is one of the perks of online play. You can make separate channels for out-of-character dialogue. In fact, many MMOs have established protocol for this. If you're RPing in the Say channel and keeping your out-of-character in Whisper or Party Chat, for instance, all you have to do is look at the color of your text to know which is which. The same is true for Discord or Forum RP, where you can simply create a separate channel for it. In my experience, it does not work so well with hybrid platforms like Roll20, as in practice most players likely won't look at it until after session anyway, unless you specifically draw their attention to it. Finally, it's time to talk about the final frontier, space. With many RPers, and I definitively include myself here, we get genuinely decided about the setting, the story, and how our characters interact with it. So far, so good. And so we tend to fill every gap in conversation with dialogue, often long-winded and not strictly essential to the scene. You know who you are. Your intentions are good. Your dedication to the story is admirable. However, it's important to look at the bigger picture, particularly if there are more timid players who may feel they can't get a word in edgewise, or if it feels like your GM is trying to move the plot along. These are not always easy things to spot, particularly if you're in the moment. So do keep your eyes open for opportunities others may be missing because of you. And if in doubt, keep your in-character comments flavorful but short. If you're going more than 2 or 3 sentences in a normal conversation, you may be monologuing. Now this is a controversial point, I realize, particularly in the online community where paragraph RP has become quite popular. And particularly in a forum setting that is not real-time, you can be forgiven for using a bit more descriptive text. But in either case, the rule of thumb is to allow others a chance to react to one comment or action before bombarding them with another. Well, that's it for this installment of Roleplay 101. If I've been of assistance or entertainment, I'd encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, and ring the notification bell, and check out the new merch store on Patreon. I'll see you next time.